Our agenda for upcoming board meeting on November 8th, 2022, next Tuesday. The personnel moves, unfortunately, we have a resignation of Ms. Casey Hawk from the position of emotional support teacher. We do have a change in status. So Mr. Thomas Reynolds, from the position of maintenance level 1, will be transitioned to maintenance level 2. So we're excited about the work that Mr. Reynolds has been doing for the district, showing a very high level of skill, and will be transitioned to that higher level position, which reflects his skill and his skill level. Successful 90-day evaluation of Ashley Balisic, paraprofessional. And just a pause for a moment to ask any of the community members out there and anybody who may have an interest of wanting to be a paraprofessional. If you have a desire to really want to work and kind of be working with a teacher, working very closely with students, this is a position for you. If you're thinking about even going into teaching and want to see what that is like, this is a great opportunity as well. So you can reach out to me directly or reach out to Ms. Morgan Miller or any of our outstanding principals. They will connect and get that information immediately to you to begin that process. Co-curricular assignment of Lindsay Oberholter as a play makeup co-advisor. We're memorializing a athletic coach resignation from September 21st for Mr. Donnie Johnson from the position of assistant head coach and JV coach for football, and authorization to commit employment prior to board meetings at that particular time. So that is personnel status at this point. And looking at some of our agenda items for the upcoming November 8th board meeting, we are looking at a motion to approve, and Mr. Bard will speak more about that this evening briefly. Act 57, which was put into place in July from the governor's office. And Act 57 basically is about real estate taxes and the transfer of that when there's late payments. Motion to approve a tax appeal for a parcel that was appraised in the appraisal and the appeals process that went through from Perry County, and Mr. Ryan Wagoneer from the appeals office. Motion to accept the U.S. Department of Justice grant from the department. It's a COPS grant in the amount of $132,037.50. There is a required 25% cash match at $44,012, and this is to replace our camera system here at this throughout our school district. And kudos and thank you to Mrs. Christine Matash, Mrs. Krista Snyder, and Mr. Peter Bard for their work in applying for this grant. It is important to note that this grant is a grant that is throughout the United States, not just specific to Pennsylvania, and a competitive grant. Then we would ask you to approve, if you approve number 10, to approve number 11, which is the use of that $44,000 for our camera upgrade to use capital reserve funds for that 25% match of that. We would ask you to consider an independent athlete, Rachel Singley, for our independent swimmer for the 22-23 swim season that's upcoming. I believe winter sports begins November 18th. Motion to approve Ray and Leanne Singley as volunteer independent swim coaches for the 22-23 school year. We are looking to first read policy number, as we had mentioned earlier, policy 805.2 under school security personnel, and 218.3 students convicted or adjudicated of sexual assault. Those would be up for first read. We also would be looking at approving a contract with Pro Quality Cleaners. Pro Quality Cleaners would be providing temporary cleaning services for our district at that time. Not a permanent solution, but a temporary solution, or a temporary contractor to help us through some time right now as we are looking and needing more custodial support. And looking at possibly, depending on how the conversations go, looking for your recommendation as to what or both calendars for consideration, and that will be determined upon our conversations and what steps you want to take after we have that discussion item here in a little bit. And finally, a field trip, which looks super exciting, from the Computer Club to go to the National Security Administration's Cryptological Museum in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. So that looks awesome, and thank you to Mr. Denny Shambaugh and Ms. Kai Barclay for spearheading that field trip for our students. That one looks amazing, and a lot of great STEM, a lot of great math, and just a lot of great learning opportunities there through the NSA. And that takes us to agenda items for the great month of November. I will now turn it over to Mr. Peter Bard to talk a little bit of our review of finances. Mr. Bard, the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Fox, for turning over to me. You guys referenced the spreadsheets that I had sent out to you guys for the October 22nd comparison. If you guys will get them out, I'll give you a couple seconds to reference them. There is nothing outstanding that really has pointed out anything. We're getting close to the timetable, and oops, I'm sorry, I forgot I could use this because my voice is so loud and boisterous. We're getting close to the point where we can start to look at where we budgeted to and where exactly where we're trending to and what areas in the fund balance that we're looking at. The audit is completed to the point where they have all the data they need and they're just finishing up their processes. And we should be able to complete the AFR without requesting an extension. So I hope to have preliminary numbers, and we'll talk more about that in a presentation that we have with our budget timeline. But when you look at the expenses, relatively speaking, from 21 to 22, there isn't really anything anomalous that stands out to me that is any type of concern. If you look in the building maintenance category, for an example, there is in the 400s though, there is something where we spent $300,000 in building renovation and building purchase property services. That covers any building repairs and contracted out services. What that is, though, is that's a lot of our grant money that we're expending out via the COVID relief money and some of that stuff that we have already purchased and approved out. So that is something that is not budgeted for, but is something that is accounted for. So it's nothing that I'm concerned about, overly concerned about. And when you look at the money that was budgeted for, we're still okay in that okay range. I'm not anything that needs any particular attention. When it comes to the revenue side of things, we have 71% of our real estate taxes accounted for, which means we're probably tending towards about 97 to 98% of the budgeted revenue accounted for, which is good, which means we might be a little bit short of the 100% or the 102% that we normally get, but it doesn't mean we can't close strong in the months of November and December. And we didn't get the tax revenue in for the months of October yet because they're not due in until the second week of November. So I don't know what the revenue will be in for October or November, and they still have until December to turn in revenue. So we still have 3 months left to go, so there's still 3 months worth of revenue to come in. And so when it comes to that when it comes to those particular things, there's nothing in there that is anything that is worth concern over it. When you look at the 2021 revenues, we were at 74.81% at the same time this year. So we are about 3% short of where we were at last year. But remember also last year, Perry County's taxes, which is our largest taxing entity, was about 0.5 mils higher than they were this year because of the equalization that we had to undergo. So there is a little bit of a balancing act there as well. So I don't want anyone to freak out over any of these numbers. There's nothing really here that would cause any type of concern. The next month we are paying off. So this number, by the way, for the 2600s and the 400s in the expenses are going to go up even further when we pay our roof bill for the which will go up about $400,000 when we pay off the roof with the COVID relief money that is coming in as well. So that is some things that are coming in that will cause some of the expenses to go up. Other than that, there isn't anything here that is any cause of great concern. The salaries are trending lower than expected, which is similar because we have a lot of openings that are going unfilled at this time, and that is similarly why some of the salaries are a little bit lower than they were in the previous year by just a little bit, by a little couple percentage, a couple tenths of a percentage lower, because it would be because of the raises they got, and then we got this year backed up with the fact that we have some more openings than we did last year. Are there any questions on the financial reports that you guys have in front of you? Yes. On which one? I will have to look into that, and I will have to get back in touch with you and figure out what the difference is in the different. Oh, I see what you're talking about. The 7,800 in the state subsidies. I think that in the 7,800, I believe, is a retirement thing. But I'll look into that. I'll get a report back out to you for next week. Okay, during the administration report. I believe the 7,800 though is the reimbursement for Social Security and retirement. So it could be the fact that we just didn't get our reimbursement for the retirement and the Social Security. So it could just be that it's just a timing issue. But I'll check on that to confirm and give you a report back to that next week.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bard. Any further questions on review of the finances for this month? All right, turning it over to some discussion items. We had the privilege, myself and Mr. Funk, as well as Ms. Snyder, from hearing from the PA College Advisory Corps. And this is an outstanding program that has been around they'll explain how long it's been around, but for several years, and has done a great job in several school districts. So we reached out to offer and to hear a little bit about this program, and we thought this would really benefit the students and families, certainly of Susquenita High School and our community. So we wanted to bring Miss Amanda Lowe as well to join us here this evening to kind of explain a little bit about the PA College Advisory Corps, to talk about what this partnership may look like. And Ms. Snyder, is there anything I'm missing at this time before we turn it over?
Dr. Fox.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming.
So certainly the floor is yours, Ms. Lowe, and thank you so much for presenting on the program that you do through the PA College Advisory Corps.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us. Like Dr. Fox said, my name is Amanda Lowe, and I'm the program director of the Pennsylvania College Advising Corps. I have with me one of our own advisors, Caitlin Mosser. She'll be speaking a little bit later about her own experience, both as a Susquenita High School graduate, but also as a current college advisor. Do you all have access or copies of the slides, or what's easiest here? Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to just keep chatting. I just wanted to double check before I went on. Okay, great. All right. So just to kind of set the scene about why our program we'll talk a little bit about why our program exists, the services that we provide, and then take any questions. But at the state level, the Lumina Foundation has recognized that by the year 2025, about 60% of jobs in the state will require a post-secondary education, so some sort of certificate, bachelor's, associate's degree, et cetera. Oh, great, it's up. But in the state of Pennsylvania, only about 47% of citizens hold this post-secondary degree. So we've got a clear gap between what our workforce needs in the state and what we currently have. We also recognize that more education will often lead to higher wages, a better chance of employment, and more opportunities for students in the community. At the school level, we also know that a student typically spends an average of less than 20 minutes a year talking to a school counselor, but it's not necessarily about what they're planning to do after high school, right? Because counselors are tasked with things such as social emotional counseling, academic advising, scheduling, AP state court exam coordination, you name it, the school counselors are tasked with it. So basically, there's just a lot of things that the counselors need to be doing and not enough time in the day to give students individualized attention. And as we kind of saw from your last speaker with the Apple Distinguished Program Award, we really appreciate customized opportunities for students. And so advisors can really supplement what current services exist at the school level. So here's where the College Advising Corps comes in. We have been around in Pennsylvania since 2008, but we are part of a larger national nonprofit organization that partners with 21 different colleges across the country in 15 states. And our mission is to empower low-income, first-generation college and underrepresented high school students to identify and pursue higher education opportunities. College, career, military, you name it, we want to help the students figure out a way to get there. And so we train recent college graduates to serve as full-time college advisors for a 2-year term. And these advisors work full-time in your high school to deliver personalized, knowledgeable guidance on the college admissions process, career planning, financial aid, and enrollment management. And Caitlin's going to tell you a little bit about what that looks like in practice.
So whenever advisors are interviewed for the position, they are matched with a partner high school, or in my case, high schools, as I serve at 2 high schools, in order to better understand the high school environment. So being a Susquenita graduate, I understand rural high schools a lot better than I would a city high school. So the 2 high schools I am placed at, they are 2 rural high schools in Huntington County. And the same for another advisor. She had a Catholic high school upbringing, and so she is placed at a Catholic high school as she understands the culture at the high school and how to better relate to the students there. There's also the near-peer model, so students tend to relate better to advisors since they are closer in age and experience. So the students having somebody that's closer in age that they can talk to about what problems they might be experiencing and how the college advisor has just gone through the college process, so they understand what is now affecting the college admissions process and what is going on college campuses a lot better compared to somebody that may have been at college 5, 10 years ago. And just having that better understanding allows the advisor and the students to bond a lot better and form stronger bonds. I will also meet with all advisors meet with students one-on-one and in groups to provide college-going services. So allowing students in both in-class presentations and also in one-on-one meetings, just to understand what students need individually and to give information as a whole group to students about how they can apply to college, what they might need to know in order to apply for college, what they should be putting on resumes, all that good stuff. That's what we're hoping to provide to students so then they can better be successful with whatever their plans are after high school graduation. We also utilize the whole school approach to foster a college-going culture, so it's not just working with seniors in order to better prepare them for college. We're working with the juniors, sophomores, freshmen. We're working with teachers and administrators in order to better connect with the whole school, not just a certain demographic, and really involving that whole school. That allows the advisors to really connect with the community that they're serving and actually promote that college-going culture within the school. So as I've mentioned briefly, we do partner with the teachers and administrators to connect with students and families. And that just allows us advisors to really understand what's going on in a student's life, as they might not tell us things that seem important to us, but to a student, they might not seem as important. So that really gives us the context to better serve those students and their families in order to help them with the resources that they specifically need for themselves. And I think most importantly, college advisors do not replace the high school counseling staff. So we do work as a team. I work closely with my counselors at both schools, but I do not replace the need that they bring. So I do not help with the social emotional counseling. I will give students that need social emotional counseling to the counseling staff, as they are the professionals in that area. And I will help students through their college and career process. So some sample services are that I provide one-on-one meetings with students and parents and guardians. So parents and guardians, they're going to have questions about what their students are going through, and students themselves are going to have questions about what are they going to do after high school. So just having those one-on-one meetings, again, just to make sure that their individual questions are answered, and any questions that parents may have about financial aid, or what should their student be doing in order to prepare for college, or what if their student doesn't want to go to college, how can they be prepared? Those meetings are truly tailored and individualized for each student and each family. I also help with SAT and ACT registration and preparation. So if a student wants to apply or wants to take the SAT or ACT, making sure they know how to register for it, if they are eligible for a fee waiver, making sure that they get that fee waiver, and also just making sure that they're prepared for either exam, so then they know what to expect as they enter the exam room, and also just so then they get a higher score and stand out more in the college application process. There's also financial aid support that we provide, so helping students create their FSA ID, which is the first step in doing the FAFSA, and also helping students understand what the FAFSA is, what the CSS profile is, and do they need to fill out the CSS profile for the certain schools? Do they need to fill out the FAFSA? Which the answer is yes, they should. And helping them analyze their award letters that they'll be getting at the as they go through the college process, to help them figure out which school is the best financial fit for them out of all the schools that they have applied to. There's also classroom presentations on topics such as career exploration, using College Board, how to identify scholarships, how to write a college application essay, and creating a resume. So really, it's a lot of topics that we can present on. It's not just focused solely on the students going to college. It's really looking at all students and what do all students really need to know, and resumes, how to write, all of that is stuff that they need to know. We'll also do large-scale events such as field trips, College Application Day, which is a day that really just allows students to apply to colleges. That's the name, they apply. So I recently had mine at one of my schools, and they offered instant decisions from some of the school, which means that a student could find out instantly if they were accepted to a certain school or not. And a variety of students were accepted to at least 3 of the schools that were applied, or that were at that college application day. So it's very exciting to see the students get excited about just being accepted to college and having that peace of mind that they are at least accepted to one school. And there's also Decision Day, which is more towards May, and it's just to celebrate our seniors and really celebrate where they are going in their next path in life. So whether that is the college, maybe it's community college, maybe it's also the workforce, military, wherever their route is, we are there to celebrate them at Decision Day. We'll also be enhancing the college-going culture within the schools. So whenever the underclassmen see events like College Application Day or Decision Day, they're really looking in and they're going, what's going on? I don't know what's going on in that room. So building that curiosity within the school, so then whenever students do reach their senior year, they're aware of, oh, this is a thing. This is what I can look forward to whenever I become a senior, and then possibly applying to college and actually following through with going to college in the fall. We also build relationship with admissions counselors and recruiters from popular post-secondary institutions and employers. So I'm from, or where I serve, it's a bit of a more rural areas, and there's not as many four-year institutions close by. Same with secondary or two-year institutions, there's not many close by. So really just building close relationships with those representatives that are close by and allowing them to understand the school's context at each school, so then they understand what each student is experiencing whenever they are applying to colleges. And so those reps also understand that there might not be as many AP classes at those schools, or there might be more of a dual enrollment school. So just understanding what the context is so they can better serve their students at each school and allow them to really transfer to what they want to do.
And then the other thing we can also provide is some support with the summer melt and the actual transition to college, right? So just as important as it is to help students identify their plans, we want to make sure that they show up for them after they graduate from high school. So Caitlin hasn't had that training yet, so that's why she wasn't going to talk about it. But we can also provide support for students like, how do I register for classes? What are my resources when I get to college? How do I show up and what do I wear or what do I pack on the first day? So making sure that students feel comfortable and confident heading into their next steps. And so, like Caitlin mentioned, these are just sample services. What we would really do at your school is spend the first 2 years with the first advisor in the position, really learning and understanding your school's culture and context to figure out which of these services makes the most sense for your student population. So things, we do a larger overview of training for our advisors, but then really make sure that it's individualized and personalized for your school. So should you choose to bring us into your high school, your support goes towards hiring a fully trained college advisor like Caitlin, who would serve in your school district for a 2-year term, because for them it's seen as a gap program before going off to graduate school or another professional opportunity. The advisors receive supervision, training, and support from 3 administrative staff. We are all based out of Franklin and Marshall College. That's our main sponsor. All of the advisors are considered full-time employees of Franklin and Marshall College, so they receive full benefits and opportunities from the college. And then we also cover programming costs for large-scale events and your college-going culture supplies. So things such as Decision Day, College Application Day, also field trips and other incentives to encourage some excitement about the process. As you can see on the next slide too, we do have some demonstrated results after being in schools for almost 15 years in some places. So compared to seniors who have not met with a college advising corps advisor, students are 26% more likely to apply to 3 or more colleges a year, 24% more likely to apply for scholarships, 13% more likely to take the SAT or ACT, and 27% more likely to submit the FAFSA, which are all indicators towards a student's willingness to actually commit to a post-secondary plan. I'm going to pass it back to Caitlin.
Hello. So as Amanda previously mentioned, I graduated from Susquenita in 2018, and I recently graduated this May with my bachelor's in science in neuroscience and my bachelor's of arts in Spanish studies from Susquehanna University, and I am an advisor in Huntington County. I serve at Juniata Valley High School and Mount Union Area High School, so very rural high schools, and just understanding that experience from a rural high school, I know what they're kind of experiencing. I also know from my experience as a first-generation student, neither of my parents went to college. So kind of figuring out for myself as a high school student where to apply to this college, what colleges were a good fit for me, and just applying to the ones that emailed me and said, hey, you can apply for free, and not really knowing nothing else beyond that. That's really helped me as an advisor with my first-generation students who are probably as equally confused as I was whenever I was a senior in high school. And having that experience of being able to help them and just explain to them, this is what this means, this is what you should expect whenever you're applying to colleges, and truly allowing the world to be their oyster for them and just letting them know the opportunities that they have for them, that they may have never known existed if they had never met with an advisor before.
Any questions?
So I have a couple of questions. So you said that it's a full-time advisor, but not a full-time advisor here in the school.
You would have a full-time advisor at this school. Caitlin serves at 2 different schools because their class sizes are very tiny. So that through that county, we have 2 advisors at 4 high schools because of the size. But you would be paying for a full-time advisor to serve just at Susquenita.
Okay.
Would that be every day?
Yes.
And what, like any advisor, it doesn't have to be Caitlin, like what does an advisor's day look like then? Like how many students do they see a day? Like.
Yeah, that's a great question. So daily schedule will really depend on the goals that we set with your high school. So at the national level, we have 7 key performance indicators, such as one-on-one meetings, meetings with families, completing college applications, things like that, that we have to set for our state. And so we'll look at class sizes every year and then determine percentages. But typically, for a school size that you have, we would say that an advisor would probably meet with at least 80% of your seniors by the end of senior year for an individual meeting and then helping them with their next steps. That might change again depending on class size, what we're seeing. So a lot of their time would be spent in those one-on-one meetings. You know, if you need a pinch hit for a substitute teacher because someone's out, that's a great time to put in the advisor to do a large-scale presentation for that day, right, and help with some of the classes. There's opportunities for them as well to do those programs and bring in college representatives and things, so it's usually a mix of those 3 activities throughout the day.
Okay. I have a couple more.
Mhm.
We have college and the high school here.
Mhm.
Do you work with any schools like to help students, maybe students that are coming into the high school or, you know, are ninth graders to try and teach them and their families about our college and the high school programs?
And that's like dual enrollment, is that?
Well, our teachers are actually adjunct professors, so they
Okay.
teach the class here.
So I don't think we have as many schools that have that model, so I probably need to know a little bit more about what that looks like. But we do have advisors who can customize different presentations to explain, okay, here's what we can do with these school offerings or these course offerings. Here's where this kind of could lead to different career paths or options for you.
Yeah, because they'll get the college credits then, okay.
Yeah, so we can certainly help with that, or figure out where the articulation agreements are, so which will be the best fit for them to apply to, so that they're maximizing those credits earned at the high school level.
Okay. And then some of the meetings that you talked about where it's with the parents and everything, I'm assuming those are after school?
It depends on your school's policies. We have families come in all the time, especially if they work in the evenings or whatnot, and they can't get to and need to come in during the day.
Okay.
But we do have advisors who will work after school or on weekends. Some of our most popular events have been where an advisors like sit in a local coffee shop or something on the weekends and meet with parents. So
Okay.
they're really ready and willing to meet with parents and families when it's most convenient for them. Sometimes at the football games too. It really just depends on when we can get a hold of them.
Okay. The other thing, do you ever do anything with like let's say you start this program next year, but there's like some kids that graduated this year, but really aren't really they've gone like a whole year where they've had like a gap and they're really starting to think, well, maybe I should have paid more attention to college and everything.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of meetings that they're either able to attend, like maybe some of these large group meetings or?
So that really is, again, school dependent. Most of our school communities say, you know, once you're a graduate of our program, you're with our community forever. And so if you're welcome and able to bring them back into the school for those meetings, or you can open up your events to the public, we can certainly do that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like once we're a part of your school community, we want to work with whatever your community needs the most.
okay. Yeah, sorry.
Other questions?
First of all, welcome back, Caitlin. You talked several times about the college-going cultures. Can we get a better explanation on that?
Sure. It's really the understanding that college is an option for students and to expose them as early as possible. Many of our schools that we work with really want us to emphasize that senior year is when we should be having these conversations. But we really believe that the course planning and understanding of career needs to start much earlier. And so by building that culture and awareness around common terms such as SAT, common application, thinking about what an academic match may be starts a lot earlier. And so by going into the classrooms, hosting events that are a larger scale at the school, we can build a larger understanding about what steps might need to be taken for planning after high school.
Okay, I certainly agree with the idea of doing something earlier, starting in ninth grade. What bothers me seems to be an overemphasis on college.
Sure.
And I know you have said some things about other pathways, like the military or work and those things. My perspective on this is colleges have done a tremendous, wonderful job in selling everybody that they need 4 years of college at the expense of other things. And I'm concerned that the other students who are not interested in going to college or interested in doing other things might get left behind.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So nationally, we're in conversations around whether or not we need to change our name because most of our services are around college, but we do have other services involving career and military. Our main philosophy is that it's supposed to be about match and fit. So what is the student's best academic match and social and financial fit? For some, that's going to be a 2-year or 4-year school, but for others, it's not. And so that's where that individualized approach comes in, where we'll have those one-on-one meetings between the advisor and student to figure out what a student is most interested in. At some of our high schools where the culture is predominantly career going, we will do other events. So such as World of Work Day is really popular, where we'll bring in local businesses to do a job fair. Or we'll have meetings in different senior classes around resume building. We'll do mock interviews, things like that. So we can also provide other opportunities if there's more of an emphasis or interest in that at your school as well.
I'm glad to hear that you're going into the schools. When I first heard about this, I thought maybe it was going to be some kind of online thing, which
No,
I think
we
would be the
are-
wrong thing to do.
If your
Yeah.
school wants an in-person advisor,
Yes.
we'll have an in-person advisor.
Yeah. Okay. Student comes to you and gives you the question, Who offers me the best college education, state school or private school? What's your answer?
It really depends on their situation financially and what's going to be a best fit for them academically. And also socially, right? Because there's so many different sizes of schools and what a student's looking for. So it really comes down to that individual discussion.
Okay. I might have some more, but anybody else? Yeah.
I think several of these questions are refreshing to hear because these are the questions we had asked in our dialogue and conversation as well, especially that idea of the one-size college and university approach does not fit every student. And it's that holistic look at what is that student goal and then helping, direct. And I love the one part in the slide, which I think is very important, that it is not a replacement for a school counselor. This is a nice opportunity for a gentle handoff when it comes to being able to work on that regular basis or in smaller groups to complement the work that's already being done and to complement also our career advisor and our cooperative education to be able to help as a tandem and team to be able to, to continue to provide what the students need on that post graduation outcome. So we sincerely appreciate you being here and taking the time and coming. Great to see alumni as well and your great successes, an outstanding program. So for us, if we're interested, our next steps would be to help me through that, Amanda. I know we talked about that. I apologize.
Yeah, really just once you all have a conversation, if this feels like a good fit, to reach back out to let us know that you're interested. We still have to go through an approval process with our national office to be able to expand. And so I need to kind of collect which schools are interested across the state between now and January and then pitch that to our national team.
I would be interested in visiting another high school that already has this program to see the program in action.
Sure, I'm happy to send over the list of schools
Okay.
that have it. I mean, your neighbor down the road, Susquenita has an advisor. That's probably your closest one.
Okay.
But I'm happy to send a list, or if you also want referrals. We usually have a retired high school principal who volunteers with us in the Donegal School District. She's always happy to give a testimonial of someone who worked with an advisor for 12 years before retiring.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Certainly while we transition to Mr. Brune and Cumberland Perry Career and Tech Center, Mr. Brune, the administrative director there, I want to give just a quick public service announcement that Mr. Fry, Mr. Quigley, and Mr. Funk send their regrets of not being here. They were at Trinity High School where our girls were in the semifinals. And unfortunately tonight, it appears we had fell short and lost 3-0. But a great season as we continue, though. On Saturday, we're going to play back for third place and continue our quest to make a state appearance and to continue our quest onward. And a great resilient group of athletes. And I know we'll rebound, hopefully on some beautiful weather Saturday and continue. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brune, as well as any compliments from Dr. Rubish, our Joint Operating Committee representative here from Susquenita School District and our Board of School Directors. Mr. Brune, thank you for being here this evening.
I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and talk tonight. We're going to talk about a project that has been long discussed at Cumberland Perry, and a lot of planning and a lot of thought from a lot of stakeholders. And I want to update you on that process and where that stands now. And that's a facility improvement and expansion project of Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center. And I have a PowerPoint, and I'm going to use that as a guide. I did include it in the packet of information I sent you, or I just handed out to you. The first page that I handed out is just some general information about the school. And I'm more than happy to talk about any of that, but I'm really not going to focus on that. And then the second page is some Susquenita-specific information. The PowerPoint's going to have some more Susquenita-specific information as we talk about this project and ultimately what it might mean for Susquenita students. So I'm going to hit on some topics here, including the rationale, the targeted objectives for the project, what this project would actually look like, the impact on Susquenita and the ask of Susquenita, and then what would be some next steps. And I think those are all really important parts in understanding where we are, but more importantly, where we want to go for the future, and make sure that we have the regional technical school that our students are going to rely on probably more and more heavily as we move forward. So if you want to go to the next slide. There is a lot of writing on this slide, and I recognize that. And what this does is it gives a little bit of history about the why portion of this project. So what we're experiencing at Cumberland Perry is really a good phenomenon. We've had a lot of success in terms of student achievement and student participation. In fact, the last 10 years have seen our student enrollment go up 40%. I think every year I've come here for the last couple of years, I've said, and this is our highest enrollment year that we've ever had, and this is our highest enrollment year. And I'm going to come back tonight and say, the 22-23 year is our highest ever enrollment year. And that's a trend that is not going to stop. And as we talk a little bit, and that was really interesting to hear about the college advisory corps and how that kind of fits into the 2020s and what the workforce looks like. But that's a trend that's going to continue, and career and technical education fills a lot of pieces for a lot of students in getting them to that next step. We had over 1,000 applicants for our school this year, and we had 300 of those students, over 300 that were on a wait list for this year. So the real fact of the matter is that there's a population of students out there that we need to think about, and right now our region is not ready to serve. And the second part of this is Cumberland Perry is a 50-year-old facility, and it's been 20 plus years on any type of significant building expansion or renovation project. We take a lot of pride that we always say the guts of our building are real good, the roof and the HVAC, and we've done those very much piecemeal over the years. We just renovated our old cafeteria space into the Healthcare Pathways program. But outside of that, there's not been a lot of change for 20 years. And prior to that, and at that point, we added a handful of programs down at the southern end of our building. And prior to that, there hadn't been any change since the opening of the school, which is 50-some years ago. So what we're planning on doing, or what we're proposing that we do, has gone through a lot of different groups, a lot of different stakeholders, input internally, but especially externally in terms of chambers of commerce, economic development corporations, the workforce investment boards, our advisory committee members in our businesses and industries, and we've done a combination of targeting some existing improvement areas with some expansion and growth areas. So I'm gonna hit on these, and I can go into more detail. Spent a lot of time, especially on the expansion and the growth areas, looking at Department of Labor data and employment projections, and we believe that this is the target, and these are the initiatives that are really going to take this school into that next generation of students. So, going through some of the improvements, and again, tell me if you want more detail, because otherwise I'm going to give a real high-level overview. But these are going to include the entryway to the school and the facade. We have some security enhancements that are advisable that we would like to get done. Our culinary arts program, it's a 35 student per session program, so capacity of 70 students, and they do not have a classroom, so we'd like to, as we do that front entrance, we'd like to put a classroom in there for them. Our logistics and warehouse management program is, they're working in a warehouse that is really outdated and not comparable to what some of the more current distribution facilities have. I'm gonna have to look at my cheat sheet because I was just gonna run them off and now I can't. No, I'll be fine. I can't even. I can't read my cheat sheet anyways. It's too small. Yeah, we have some general storage areas. If you've ever been at our school, our diesel program has some trucks in the back and some trailers, and they actually store some of their equipment back there, and that's just not appropriate storage. So those are some of the improvements, and then we start looking at expansion. So expansion of some programs, and then creation of others. So expansion of existing programs would include the automotive collision program, which currently has the lowest capacity in our school at 18 students per session, and that's just due to the space that they have available. So as we would create a new logistics and warehousing program and a warehouse that would also attach to the automotive collision program. The welding program, we always have a high number of applicants. We'd like to increase that from a 20 student per session program to a 35 student per session program. This would give us the opportunity to expand in the transportation area, targeting either an expansion of automotive technology or an expansion of diesel technology. Both are real viable and very much in demand. It would include the addition of a building and property maintenance program. Our construction cluster has what everybody probably would consider to be the big ones: the carpentries, the electricals, the HVACs, the masonries, the horticulture, landscaping. One thing that we don't have is a building and property maintenance program, which is a little bit of a different animal, and this would give us the opportunity to open that. We have a criminal justice program, and this would allow us to expand in that area through the addition of an emergency management, or some schools call it homeland security. I've seen other schools call it fire and rescue type of program. And then a service occupations program, which would really be modeled after, if you're familiar with what the Capital Area Intermediate Unit does with their Project Surge program, for some high-need students and some real basic employment training, smaller capacity program, and whether that's housekeeping or light food preparation or light office work. That's the type of program that would be modeled after. Our region is sorely lacking in opportunities and programs for those students. So that's a very, very quick overview of what the project would entail. Ultimately, if everything goes as it is on paper right here, that would give us an increased capacity of 278 students. I think that slide has the most writing of any of them. So let's go to the next one. So this is the existing floor plan of the building, and the only thing I want to point out to you is the tealish colored programs. Those are our manufacturing-based programs, and what a significant portion of this project would propose is pulling each of those programs out. You can see they're not clustered together. There's not ideal collaboration in them, and those would be our welding programs, the advanced manufacturing or the machining program, and the electromechanical program. So we're going to pull those out, add a fourth program in that cluster, and that would be a pre-engineering program. And that would be some significant construction on what this picture shows to be the bottom of the school. It's actually the west side of the school. But so when we go to the next slide, you'll see those blue ones pulled out. And then the other thing that you're going to see is the electrical construction and maintenance program, which is obviously in the construction cluster. We're actually going to move that to the construction cluster and give it a much more appropriate space. So by moving those programs, it's going to create some space within the building for some additional programs as well. So if you want to go to that next slide, this is the rendering that Crabtree Rohrbaugh has prepared for this. And you can see those two buildings at the bottom. One of them would be the logistics and warehouse management and auto collision, and then the other one would be the manufacturing building. The electrical construction and maintenance is on the upper right side, and then you can see at the top near the main entrance, there's some work at the main entrance. So next slide. And this is the same picture with more of a program layout to it. I can send this all to you electronically because I'm looking at these slides and I know I can't read them, and you probably have better eyes than I do. But this is a rendering of what the front of the building might look like. And then the next slide would be the expanded building. That would actually be, if you're familiar with our campus or our complex there, that's actually where you pull in to the school. We're kind of an odd school in that you pull into the back of it and then you drive around the school for the front door. So this would be where you're pulling in. There's also a recommendation. We only have one in and out access road to the school. And this project would add an additional entrance and exit actually off of Technology Drive, and it would give direct access to the front of the school. So next slide. All right. Yep. No, ask them as we're going. Yep, absolutely.
So this, what we're looking at, though, it's the back of the building, that's the front.
Yeah, it's actually going to be.
I'm just wondering about the doors.
Yeah. So those doors, those programs have really extensive equipment. So those doors are as much to make sure that that equipment can be placed in. If you go back one more slide. Sorry, one more slide after that. And I apologize for walking around here. So the viewpoint that you were seeing on the picture was from about right here. So you are looking at this, but this area would be accessed through there. When we worked with our architects on this schematic, we had a really good committee from our building and grounds members of our joint operating committee, and then some of the Cumberland Perry team. And we went through a lot of different options. There's a lot going on here, and we basically went through piece by piece by piece and asked, how can we do this the most efficiently and effectively? And that's why you see some of they're not necessarily built right onto the existing building, because that would have caused a lot of code issues and a lot greater expense. It would actually be constructed in primarily not a block building. It would be a metal building similar to what you see in,
For a warehouse.
let's say, like a Costco, for example, that type of building. Yep, no, that's a good question. Yep.
I mean, this road, this road is parallel then to the actual the rural road that runs.
Yes, that'd be new. Yep. So here's some Susquenita information, just in terms of enrollment. Historically, Susquenita has been pretty consistent with enrollment. There's been upticks and downticks. This is obviously, Susquenita's applicants are up like everybody else's, and so the numbers are up. Historically, though, we've usually been able to accommodate Susquenita, and it has not been an issue, and that's because some of our other schools would not send to their capacities. And I'll give two examples of large schools that come at the same time as Susquenita, and that would be Cumberland Valley and Mechanicsburg. And so when they don't use spots, it just created a lot more flexibility for everybody else. And that trend is really over. We received the most applicants for this current school year from Cumberland Valley, and that's a new thing. And you know, we talk about options and directions for high school students, and people are realizing that this is an option that gives every single direction under the sun, whether it's employment, certificate programs, associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees. These programs are the door to a lot of that, and they're getting a lot of attention, especially, frankly, especially with the cost of bachelor's degrees. People are looking for options. So we do have a very large population of Susquenita students this year, and you can see your net contributions over the years. I'm actually projecting that this year is going to be your lowest net contribution in the last 5 years.
Off again.
On the next slide is the next slide is the applicant outcome of your students that applied last year to come this year. And I'm going to tell you that the Susquenita experience is the typical experience. Just, you know, based on the size of the school, the numbers might be different, but the percentages are very, very similar across the board. In that, Susquenita had 63 applicants last year. And you think about that number, 63 applicants, and there's 78 total in our school, and those are 3-year programs. So you know that they didn't all get in. Out of those 63 applicants, 36 were offered their first choice. So slightly over half. 34 of them accepted that choice. We had 2 students decline. We had 2 students that were offered their second choice, and both of those 2 students accepted their second choice. We did not make any third choice offers because there were no third choice programs available. So we had 8 students that, for one reason or another, and there's a lot of reasons, no action was taken, or they had an incomplete application, or there was a decision that it might not be the best fit for that student. And then we had 17 students that were placed on a wait list. So that was the outcome of the Susquenita applicants from last year. Just to put that, you know, kind of put it in perspective, out of our 13 districts, Susquenita makes up somewhere about 5% of the eligible students to come to Cumberland Perry. So, you know, some districts had larger numbers, but percentage-wise, I think everybody was dealing with really the same outcome. Yep. No, if they didn't get called up by the beginning of the year, or in really the first, we go 2 weeks of school where we keep doing that, and then it's just impossible. There's no way a student's going to get in, and it's one of the challenges of having the length of the programs that we have. I mean, they're missing a big chunk. Every day is 2-some hours. For seniors, it's closer to 3. So next, if we could go to the next slide. So when we look at this project, and this is where we start getting into the ask. How do we make sure that we do have the facility for these students for the next 10 years? Our consortium is a great one, and I don't think that this is a bad challenge that we're facing, but it's definitely a challenge that we need to look at. So at the most recent JOC meeting, Crabtree came with a cost estimate on this project of $23.5 million. And the way that the proposed cost sharing is a little bit different than the typical year-to-year operating budget. And I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with that, but we go on 5-year average daily membership. So every year we look back at the previous 5, average it all out and say, okay, you guys sent us this % of students, so you're responsible for this % of the operating cost. For this capital project, and should there be other capital projects in the future, we had a committee of superintendents that met, and it was really a good committee of large schools, small schools, and in between, trying to balance this. And the formula that was developed was a 75% cost sharing based on the 10-year average daily membership, and then a 25% cost sharing based on the quota. And let me explain why kind of that compromise came into place. So we'll get, for example, and we'll just say District A traditionally has not sent us up to their quota, and so their average daily membership might be lower than it might be projected to be in the future. So this method takes a look back period and then also a little bit of a projection going forward component. Frankly, for Susquenita, it didn't matter much when we ran the numbers either way. For some of the larger districts that have really seen some significant growth, it had more of an impact for. And these are just estimated numbers that were run by PFM for a $23.5 million project. Going by that financing formula for each district, the Susquenita % share would be 6.283. And again, that number is going to change. By the time the financing happens, the 10-year period might be different, so it might be 9 of the years might still be the same, but we've added a different year and kicked off a year. And then the quota numbers might be slightly different, but it's not going to change significantly. The principal share, and we've had some districts ask about this because I think their thought is, can we just not finance it? And again, this gets into the specific situations of each district. The principal share would be about $1.5 million for Susquenita, and then if that were to happen over a 20-year financing, it'd be about $120,000 per year. So that's really the ask of this. Any questions before I go on to the next slide? All right, next slide then. So the next steps, and this is cut and pasted from a much longer timeline of lots of steps that probably have no interest on most levels. But we're at November and December, so we're visiting sending district boards to talk about the rationale, the need, the cost, the gain, the project specifications, and then the ask is asking districts to consider a resolution to support the project at a not-to-exceed financing cost. So that not-to-exceed financing cost would be $23.5 million, and asking the districts to commit to their portion of that project cost.
So just real quick, a resolution would include that price of 23.5, which could go lower, but not to exceed, and that we would be committing to this building project and to our percentage formula, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
It does entail an amendment to the Articles of Agreement to incorporate that 75-25 formula for capital expenditures like this. So it's really, the resolution, and I gave you a copy of the resolution there.
Yep.
It's really doing two things. If you just jump to the end, there's a 1 and a 2 there, and it says amend the Articles of Agreement, and that's for that 75-25% split again. And then it says commit to your district's portion of that project with a total project cost not to exceed $23.5 million. So that is the ask. If every district approves this, we can move forward. If every district approved it in the next couple of months, we would move forward at a pace where we might anticipate construction to begin in April of 2024.
So I think that's a really important aspect that I want us to feel comfortable. When is the absolute, when do you need a resolution? And when is a resolution, if not passed, or when is it too late for a resolution? Like, what is that timeline that you're looking at for us to come together to determine if this is the direction that, or we want to take?
November or December would be excellent. This project requires the unanimous approval of 13 districts. And so it's not gonna move forward until that 13th district makes that approval.
So you had, what, 273 new positions you said would be available, or 263? I can't remember the number.
Yeah, well,
And we would get
278.
6% of those?
You would get them according to the.
Based on our current formula, it's about 6%, 5%?
Yeah, it would be about 6%.
So about 15 kids, roughly.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 5%.
Well, then our cost is 6%, so
But we're
which
only
is it?
getting-
Yeah, so quotas are based on your size relative to the entire consortium. So it's 5-6%. It's somewhere in there. If
That just screwed up the
I
whole number.
think I might, let me see if I
Well-
have.
Our cost is 6.283.
Your percentage usage, if you stay, you stay 60-some students a year, when you take 60 out of where we were at 10 years ago, it's a higher percent than 60 out of the 1,260-some that we have today. So even your number of students has remained largely the same, but your percent of the students has gone down, and that's that's one of the reasons when you see your contributions being very steady. And our school costs have not been steady. We've had healthcare increases, we've had salary increases, but your contributions have been largely steady, and that's because your overall percent of the consortium has been going down a little bit, and it's not because necessarily you send less students. It's because other people are sending more students.
But is that because they have more students? Because why, if we're turning people away, why does our number keep going down?
Your number's not going down. It's just remaining steady. I would say every seat is.
But how does
getting
that
more
happen if your
competitive.
costs are going up? Something has to change. Our numbers have to go down for your cost to stay the same.
For your cost to stay the same. Our overall cost has not stayed the same. But the Susquenita one, and that's because you know, if you take, and I'm gonna do bad math here. 65 students out of 900, that's a higher percent than that same 65 students out of 1,200. So even though you're still sending 65 students, your percent of the whole has gone down.
But, so why hasn't our percent went up? I mean, not percent, why haven't our student counts went up if you're adding student capacity?
Oh, it will, but it hasn't.
No,
happened.
no.
They've been
It
adding capacity
hasn't.
for 10 years.
Yeah, so you guys are a little
Yeah, but
bit-
you can't count 1 year. We got to look at the whole bigger picture. So
Yeah.
why over the 10-year, if you've added however many students, has our number not changed?
Well, we do make every effort to give those districts up to their quota number based on their relative size. So that's certainly one of the factors. So when we get, and let's just say we get
And our prices have gone up.
lots of applicants, let's say we get lots of applicants from every school, which is kind of where we are now. So we make every effort to give each district those seats based on their relative size, and that's how it's spelled out in the article.
So after the construction project's done, what will our new quota be?
Well, the quota numbers do get recalculated every year.
Okay, but if it opened next year, what would our quota be?
You would have, it would either, I'd have to look at the exact percent, but let's just say it's 6%. 6% of that 280 or 278, so, you know, what?
Was that 15?
About 15, 16, yeah.
16, yeah.
So the 17 that got turned down maybe wouldn't get turned down.
Well, that's only, but that's
That's what I'm
it's
trying
a
to-
3-year running total, so it's only 5.
Yeah,
It's only
No, that's for that, right,
Yeah, but your kids are there for 3 years, so you can't count
right.
every year.
Right.
If we're sending if our quota is this new quota would be 87. So if we send 87 kids, 2/3 of them are not going because
Still.
it's a 3-year program. We can only have 87 for the whole 3 years. So you have a third in the first year, a third in the second, a third in the fourth. So I did it at 5%.
Okay.
Just as an
Yeah.
example. So if you take the whole loan and divide it out over 20 years, it's 5,600. It's 5,560 students over that time in a 1-year program, which comes out to $7,194.25 a student per year over that 20 years. At the 14 students, if we added that at Susquenita, it's costing us $8,961.63 per student per year over the 20. So it's costing us a substantial amount higher than other districts. Now I have to go back and figure that at 6%. But if we're not even hitting our quotas other than 1 year over the last 5 years,
Yeah, so
there has to be a reason.
the project probably, you know, when we say we had 300 students on the wait list, this would not solve that entire problem. It would just put a start to it.
On top of the fact that it's important to know that the quota is the number. It needs to go back to what are those students applying for in some of those programs that you mentioned. When they're in high demand already, that competition naturally occurs, and there's so much space and available for certain programs. So if we have 72 kids, and of those 72 kids, they wanted 3 different programs, it makes it difficult to get into those programs. It's providing those options, such as the reason we go on some of those 8th grade travel visits, to be able to see the multitude of different programs and some that are underrepresented as well during the course of the programs.
So, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
So if I'm looking at this number right here, this 20, 22, 23, top number, the
Okay.
7 students.
Mhm.
You're saying that that's
That's what you have at our school, yeah.
Second year, third year program, it's 78 students.
Correct.
And the ones that we need to look into, so some of those, if they started in 10th grade, they're seniors now, so they've been there for the next 2 years as well. So the 65 and the 67. So we can say that, what is it, 67 minus 9 students were new this year, possibly, because it went from, well, somebody graduated.
Right, we would have had graduates.
That 78 is always a 3-year number.
Yes, you're right.
The thing that we need to look at is, that's our highest number. You have to think about it. Last year, there were only like 90 kids that 99 kids that graduated. The year before, there was barely 100, and this year, there's like 111 that may graduate. Beginning of the year, until we got that credit reimbursement, it was like 99. The current 11th graders, I think are much more. I think that's a much bigger, I bet it's 130, isn't it?
That's why I was asking.
Well,
I think the next couple of years coming, we're already talking about that 6th grade program, and they've always been in the middle.
but,
But I think the next couple of years coming through the high school are much larger.
well, is the quota based on our current student population at our school? So if we have a class that comes, 2 classes back to back that are, say, 150, will our quota go up to accommodate them at your school?
It's a,
6% is bigger, 6% of 200.
No, but is it 6% of his school or 6% of our school?
let me,
I don't know the answer. I want to hear the question.
It's a little bit more nuanced than that. So let's say that from this year to next year, and again, I'm going to use a round number, 100. There were 100 Susquenita students eligible to return. So when we're looking at next year's quota, we don't exactly include those 100 students. What we look at is our projected open seats. So, and then we distribute those projected open seats to each district.
So it's based on your population availability within your building?
Yeah,
But,
yes,
but
yes.
if we have we have 2 classes coming up from the middle school, they hit 10th grade, and there are 50 more kids in our current, now our, the percentage of kids that we can send from our school, we would like it to be higher because we have more kids that want to go.
So your pool of
So we're going to have
students
less
will-
kids get in, percentage-wise, than we do now. Or a higher percentage of kids not being able to get in as of our student population.
Maybe if you do have a large class,
We do.
It is going to get factored in, and I'll tell you, when you look at the 13 districts, the 13 member districts, we look at grades 9, 10, and 11, according to their PIMS reports, and we get a total population, and we call that the eligible population because those are the students that can apply. That number is right now it's around 9,400 students. So your percent of that is some number out of 9,400.
So it's based on
So-
our population, not your school's population.
And so then we get a percent, and so that turns into a percent, and then you're allocated that percent of projected seats, and that gets added to what you already have coming back. So
But if everybody's population is going up, our seats are still going to be pretty much the same.
yeah, everybody's seats are really, they're pretty much maxed out. It's going to be,
Why didn't I expand?
yeah.
So,
So in theory, if
Because don't we have a middle school class that's like really, really big right now?
Grade 6.
Yeah, so by the time this project's done, and they try to go to,
yeah, that's 6th grade classes.
you're going to have a lot of kids turned down, is what I'm saying.
And I absolutely understand looking at it that way. When you think about some of the other advantages, though, it does create some additional options for students that they might not otherwise have. Well, let's face it, they don't otherwise have. So there is, not only is it the increased capacity, but it's increased options as well. So we're hitting a little bit more areas of the community in the region and those related needs.
So I have a question.
Yep.
So you look at 9, 10, and 11 for eligible population. Are most of the programs that you have a 3-year program?
Yes.
Because okay, so then why would you look at 9, 10, and 11? Because if it is a 3-year program, no one is getting in by 10th and 11th grade. So then they would not be eligible for the program. Technically, they are only eligible in their 9th grade year to apply, because beyond 10th grade, if they aren't in, you can't waitlist them because they're never going to get in, because if all of the programs are 3-year programs, they have no chance of getting in.
Yeah, we don't, we actually do a blind application with regards to what year it is. And the reason is, sometimes students make that decision. They should have applied in 9th grade and come 10, 11, 12. Well, you know what? Sometimes we get students that the light bulb goes off in 11th grade and they apply and they come for 12th grade. And our argument is they're picking up more than they would have if they didn't come at all. And so they can apply in 9th or 10th or 11th. Do the majority apply in 9th? Yes. Do we have some, we call them level 1 seniors in our building right now? Absolutely.
So what is, now I'm even more confused. So what is their option to finish?
Well, they're not, I'm sorry, John.
They do 1 year in Montpelier, they go finish it off someplace in Hack or
Yeah.
someplace like that. You know, I used to make a point in junior English classes, the kids that were on the side of nowhere, and say, why don't you come on Montpelier, try your last year? You know what you're gonna do here, you do nothing, why don't you go down there? And one year I had to go do that, and she said, well, I'm sure glad I did that, it still worked out for you, but, well, she said, I hated it, but at least I found out. I'm gonna do something else now, so.
And this is going to sound stupid, but we don't consider it as a finish. It's just we've handed you off to the next phase. Now take it and do the next thing. So, I mean, yes, they technically do finish our programs, but so if you want to go to the next slide. So this again was just kind of a restatement of some of the rationale and then what the project specifics would be. And that the last slide is just a handout of the value of career in tech ed. I don't think anybody necessarily needs reminders on what these programs do for students. But we just feel so passionately about that. This is the best thing that's happened to a lot of the students in their educational lives. It sets them on a pathway that is life-altering, and you know, frankly, I think, and of course, I'm biased, but I do come from a traditional high school. I think career in tech ed is the most impactful thing that a student can do. Interestingly enough, she had some statistics about college participation, and I'm gonna give you not necessarily different statistics, but I'm gonna phrase them differently. In the world of labor, there's a known ratio, 1 to 2 to 7, and what that ratio is the ratio of the education required for different jobs, and it's really true across just about any industry. There's 1 or 2 exceptions industry-wise. So, for example, in the world of healthcare, that 1 is somebody who needs a very advanced degree. We're talking the doctors, the surgeons, the anesthesiologists, something, you know, doctorate level, you know, high master's level. The 2 are the bachelor's degree type of positions, the RNs, those types. And then the 7s are the ones that need some advanced training, but maybe not the bachelor's or that high advanced degree. So the surge techs, the lab techs, And that's really what we think about it at our school is, that 1 to 2 to 7. We can send you to a 1. We can send you to a 2, or we can send you to one of those 7s. But that's where the jobs are. And like I said, that's true whether you're looking at healthcare or construction. The fact is, you add the 1s and the 2s, and you get basically 3 out of 10. It's probably closer to a little bit like 3 point something out of 10. Those are the needs for degrees, and there's no doubt about that those are valuable and necessary. But there's also the needs for those 7s, the diplomas, the certificates, that advanced training, and that's what we do. And that trend I talked about, that's not going away. So again, lot to consider here, and I understand that.
Just when I was a counselor here, I used to ask seniors every year, the ones that went from Perry, if you had to do it over again, would you do it over again? It was always yes, 100%. Once in a while, they say they would go through information.
Yeah. Our exit survey results tell us basically the same thing, yeah.
All right, so if you change that number to 6%, it makes our number within like $20,000 of what everybody else is paying, just off the rough numbers.
Okay.
So your mathematical works out. That takes us to 17 students, though, at a cost of $7,200 per student per year, to add 17 students. What is your operating cost after this program rolls out on top of the construction per student,
So,
or for the 287?
yep.
Either way.
So we would phase in some of those programs, and we would not do that expansion all at once. Once you get, I will tell you, for each program that we operate, depending on what the program is, that there's a little bit of difference. But the cost for a program is somewhere, we would anticipate around $150,000 to operate a new program. So if we then start staggering those new programs in, we would expect that our operating costs would go up somewhere in the vicinity of $750,000 over several years, and it would probably be about between 5 and 8 years out.
But you're saying that 750 is about what the operating cost would be once everything is up and running?
Right.
So that's another $2,600 per student per year. Okay, so it takes them up to almost 10,000.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to necessarily check math.
Yeah, no, you can check my
standing
math,
here,
but that's
so
roughly.
the 750 would get distributed between 13 districts, and then you would look at, I would say 95 Susquenita students in attendance is probably realistic. Okay.
Turn off the mic. So you're basing that off 9th, 10th, and 11th because you still take 10th and 11th graders. So really, by the time a 9th grader hits, let's just say that we have 2 big classes back to back, those kids are really not going to get the opportunity that the other districts do, because by the time their numbers are calculated in, I think it's where Marcy was going with this, that why aren't you looking at 7th, 8th, and 9th? Why are you looking at 10th, 11th, and 12th? When we should be looking at what we're coming into to change numbers, not what we're looking back at.
Yeah, the quota calculation is embedded in the Articles of Agreement between the 13 districts. So it's not necessarily something that I picked or we picked. It's something that they picked, frankly, many years ago, and it's worked. You know, I think anytime you get to something where we're pushing the size and we're pushing the capacity, it does make it harder, but that's the reason it's the 9, 10, 11.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody have other questions? I am more than happy to come back and
So basically, the 120,000 a year is on top of the existing 430,000 we pay each year.
correct.
So that comes out to your 600 divided by the math. It's about what you're saying. So, and,
No,
and that'll
because-
continue till the end of the 20 years, unless we decide to not use a loan and just pay off our 1.5. If we wanted to do that and save $900,000.
So if nothing changes and they have all the programs rolled out and we have 17 new students in the program going off $9,000, which is actually like $9,300 per student per year, it's going to cost us $153,000 per year more than we're paying now.
And that budget forecast that he gave, that bill, is not due until 2024, which is not in this fiscal year coming up that we're going to be talking about the budget timeline process. It is actually in the following budget fiscal year, which would be something that we could talk about in a
Can you put the amortization table back up, though, what it shows? I mean, we're paying basically $900,000 to borrow $150,000, or $1,500,000.
Yeah, we're paying $1 million and for 1.5,
Yeah.
more or less, yeah.
We don't have to go, we don't have, I mean, this is something we could talk about without Justin here. I mean, it's something that Susquenita could deal with on its own. But we do not need to finance that at 20 years. We could pay the entire 1.512,279, whatever it is, on our own as a one lump sum payment. We do not need to finance it out 20 years. That was just a figure to figure out for budgetary purposes for ourselves. We could pay the entire principal share at one point, at one time.
Okay, because currently, right now, I wouldn't want to finance anything.
What was that?
I wouldn't want to finance anything right now.
Right. I mean, we don't have to. We could bond out. We don't have to bond. We could pay it as. So our debt service payment is $2.4 million, and our bond will be debt. We won't have a. We'll pay our last debt service payment at the next fiscal year, and that $1.5 million would fit right in with that line item. So we could probably pay. And I spoke with Brad Remy, who is actually their a finance guy as well, and he said that we could pay it in one lump sum as well. It's up to the district's discretion. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, and
So we wouldn't have a loan payment, you're saying we wouldn't have a loan payment when this 1.5 hits?
Right, we would not. There'd be the debt. We would be debt. So we'd have to just. This would be.
So technically, we could just pay it.
We would just pay it then out of our funds, and then we would send it to them, and then that would be a debt service payment after that. But we would talk about that when that would be part of our scope and discussion in terms of other things that we have going on with our own feasibility study, because our buildings are also 50 years old, and we have our own 17, 1,800 students that we have going here that we have to concern about their own buildings as well.
I hate to bring this up, but what is that percentage rate based off of that's on that sheet you gave us? If it's from last month or the month before, that's outdated by double.
I think it is from.
The bond market's a little bit different than the actual straight bank loan market.
I know.
So the bond market's around 3% and 3.5%. So it's probably, I would imagine that number is probably from about 3 months ago. It's probably not very recent, and that number would probably significantly go higher compared to, like you said, whatever.
So legitimately, we could be,
That could be
we
somewhere-
could be 1 for 1.
No,
We could actually, our financing costs over 20 years could actually be 1.5 million.
It could, yeah, it could be.
By the time they finance this in a year.
It might be, but I don't know what the actual cost would be until they actually
yeah,
put the
Brad
project
just sent me updated numbers last week, so, yeah.
Sorry,
I
this
think,
might
I
be
think it's
current.
more recent than
Yeah, it might be. I don't know what the numbers are. All I know is that the numbers, that 1.512 million would be the number I'm looking at, not the financing estimate, because my goal would be to have the district paid up front instead of us going out to the marketplace to get another bond issue unless we need to wrap it in with something else that we're doing, such as our own feasibility study or something of that nature. But my goal right now would be to have district paid all at one time.
Well, and isn't that kind of the point of us doing the not to exceed? And maybe you have an opinion about this. But if we do a not to exceed and you come back to us after everyone has made their decision in the 13 months and they're like, oops, I'm over with my financing or the numbers went up or anything, then it's just not going to get approved because we said not to exceed this.
They would have to come back with another resolution or to scale back the project. Also.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're not locked, what I'm saying is we're not locked into a catastrophe that happens in the future because we do this arrangement because we're
Right.
going to put not to exceed in there.
Correct. And like I said, given the flexibility that we have at the current debt service structure and the fact that it's not due until 2024, I'm comfortable where the district's position is at this point. As long as you guys are comfortable with the academic programming and where it stands with that perspective. But I leave that up to Krista and John where that is.
So I think at this time, it's important for us to see and make sure we have all the answers to the questions that we need. Certainly, at this point, if we need and we can, I know you've got a lot of districts that you're visiting, but certainly if we want, we can invite Mr. Brune back. This is a big situation. If we need to, we can certainly hold a special meeting and invite Mr. Brune back as more of a discussion and an opportunity where it's more of a workshop basis. But think of any questions that you may want that we didn't have answered, that we can get answered, because I think looking at it timeline-wise, you would like us to look at acting on this resolution by December, if that's accurate.
If possible and if you're ready.
Mr. Brune, has there been any districts that have already approved the resolution to date?
There have not, and the reason is I haven't sent it out.
Okay, all right. Well, that would be a good reason. Thank you.
I have had a couple districts say that we don't need a visit, and I take that to mean that they're going to support it.
Or they already said no.
Right, or else I'm going to do a lot of visits for an ultimate predetermined no. So, yeah, absolutely, I can come back. I'd be happy to bring, Anthony Kolstocks, the architect we've been working with, or Seth Lentz, and they can come and talk to some of the architectural schematic decisions that went into this, and obviously you know Brad from PFM, and I know that we will have districts that if this does move forward, they're not going to finance it. They're going to, or they might finance it through some of their own other projects and wrap it all in together. But they're not all necessarily going to go through the consortium financing. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming, and thanks for your time this evening. And again, as we said, if we have collective questions, we certainly can get those questions to Mr. Brune if I'm not able to answer those. And we'll get those to him. That way we can feel comfortable seeing if there's anything additionally we need to be able to make an informed decision. And again, no peer pressure, but certainly all districts need to approve it in order for it to move forward. At this time, I'm going to pivot on the agenda a little bit and ask Mr. Bard to talk about Act 57 and then on to the budget timeline before I jump to our final discussion item on calendar. I just need to step out for 1 second.
I wasn't prepared. All right, I'll go. I'm just kidding, everybody.
Tag, you're it.
I'm just kidding. Dr. Fox told me I was going at the end, so I wasn't ready to go, but I'm ready to go. I'll go. We're good. So what Act 57 is a resolution that was passed by the PA legislator and signed by Governor Wolf. It was signed right after this summer on July 11th, 2022, and it amended the local tax collection law. And there's a 90-day wait period for it to go into collection, so it went into law actually on October 11th. So it gave local taxing authorities a period of time to pass a resolution. So we have to pass a resolution to require districts to waive penalty, fees, interests, or other charges when new homeowners do not receive a bill notice within the first year of owning a property. And so what that basically is that when a new homeowner buys a property, normally when you buy a property, and real estate agents know this, a lien researcher is supposed to look back and check to make sure there is no past liens or back taxes or anything like that need to be settled before a homeowner buys the property. If that somehow does not happen, the homeowner can get a bill in the mail that has stacked with a lot of bills and interest and fees and stuff. Christine, could you switch the slide? So what the act does is it gives the homeowner some recourse and some recompense to get those things off of that. The resolution only allows the waiver of the penalty, fees, interest, or other charges that as a result of late payments from the homeowner, from the previous homeowner. This will be a universal waiver that's created by the Department of Community and Economic Development from the state, and it will be applied in the first year after the implementation date of October 11th, and is therefore for the 23-24 tax year. It does not affect taxpayers this year in 22-23. It affects taxpayers after that. The taxpayers are required to show proof of property transfer through two ways that are specified in the Act. And the two ways that they are required to show is a deed showing the date of the transfer of the real estate property, or the title from an acquisition of a mobile or manufactured home subject to taxation, or an executed lease agreement between the homeowner and between homeowners and the parcel of land on a mobile or manufactured home. There is actually a waiver form that they have to sign and then send in to the tax collector, and it goes to the county, the municipality, and the school district. So it affects all three taxing entities, whether it's like I said, the county, the municipality, or the school district. So all three entities have to adopt a resolution stating that they will waive any penalties, fees, or interests that occur. It does not affect the face value. So if we are owed any money that is due on the face value of any taxes, we still recover that money, and the taxpayer is still required to pay that, even if it's a new homeowner that buys the property. They would have to go back to the previous homeowner or property owner and recoup that if they did not do their due diligence and get that money back. This only is for, like I said, penalties, fees, or interests. So I will be asking the board to adopt this resolution pursuant to the Act, and we'll be considering that approval at the board meeting next week. Do you guys have any questions regarding this?
What happens if we don't adopt it?
I don't really know. It's not specified in the Act if the taxing entity doesn't adopt.
Because what this act is allowing to happen is if you haven't paid your taxes in 10 years, the person buying it can buy it without title insurance, and all your fees and late stuff would go away. And the new owner would have to then pay the back taxes. But that could change the selling price of a property because all the penalties and fees would go away. So that could be negotiated into the price. All right, you owe $10,000 of back taxes, but the government wants $50,000 because of all the fees and penalties. I'll just sell you the property for $10,000 cheaper than what we agreed upon, and you pay the back taxes.
That's correct. Yeah, this is something that the legislator voted and approved. So I don't think there is any. I think it's something that has to go through, even if we don't approve it. I think it's just something. I don't know. There's nothing that says. There's nothing in there that says what happens to a taxing entity if it doesn't occur. I think it's something that every taxing entity is kind of forced to come through because the legislator approved it and the governor signed it. It does, like I said, it's okay, Christine, because the next point would be the budget timeline. But the next thing would be, I think So what I understand the mindset of the people to be is that, well, you're still getting the money that's owed for the taxes, but you're not getting the penalties or the interest that accrued because of this. So there's actually no penalty to people. So like you said, somebody could just legitimately not pay their taxes for 10 years and then just say, there's no penalty for not paying the taxes for 10 years, so I'm just gonna, like you said, sell the property and then nobody's gonna keep, like, I don't care no more, you know what I mean? So there's actually no penalty for doing that. But the governmental entities are still gonna get their face value of taxes. So it's really no loss to the governmental entities, but there's still no penalties for somebody doing it. So it's kind of like a catch-22, and it's not really fair because, like you said, somebody's not gonna, there's
Right,
not.
so basically you could have an attorney run your own title search, find out that there was no mortgage liens on the property and no mechanics liens on the property, and then buy the property, and the fees and late stuff would just all go away. And you could negotiate that into the price with the seller,
Correct. And, you know, I think, and also.
which is gonna happen a lot.
Phil, it's also correct that, and also you'll find with a lot of school districts, Phil, especially in the larger school districts, when you see tax sales go off, boards actually negotiate with property owners and waive their penalties and fees and interest anyways. And I think that's part of the reason why they did this as well, was a lot of entities were waiving their penalties, fees, and interests anyways. And it was exactly happening the way you were saying it. So you're like, we might as well just memorialize it and make everybody do it. Even the small districts that, you know what I mean, that don't have, you know, the clout, you know, that people don't come to them, they just pay.
Well, because it doesn't affect us if we have 50 properties that we're not collecting taxes on, is way different than a city that's got 400 properties or 4,000 properties that they're collecting nothing on. They're willing just to take it.
Right, yeah, so I think it's more, it hurts the smaller places or the smaller counties or rural counties than it does the big municipal, the bigger counties and stuff of that nature, so. I think, like I said, the question of whether or not what the penalty is if we don't adopt it, I don't know. It doesn't specify in the act, but I think they can come in and say you have to do it. The penalty could be that they could withhold, and they didn't come down with this, but they could withhold subsidies, which
That's
is
what I
big.
say.
No subsidies
no
until you adopt it.
subsidies until we adopt it.
Yeah, that's normally what they do. Is if you're late on a report, they just say, hey, we're not going to send you your basic ed subsidy until you adopt it. So that's always the catch-22. So, are there any other questions on the Act 57 before? All right, thank you, everybody. The next budget, the presentation is the budget timeline for 22-23. I better pull it up on my computer I'll get it done in 10 minutes. I'm not going to talk long like Dr. Fox. No offense, Dr. Fox, I love you, buddy. The timeline for the Act 1 index. So by December 31st, we have to mail out applications for the homestead, farmstead, to all residents of the district to fill out and send. This is set by the state, the Commonwealth. By January 26th of 2023, I know we just got done doing the budget, but it's that time of the year again, so I apologize for that. The district will have to decide whether or not they want to do a proposed version of the preliminary budget that has to be made available if the district is going to go above the Act 1 index for increasing taxes. The Susquenita Act 1 index this year for 23-24 is 5.5%. I do not believe the district will have to increase property taxes at all this year. That is something that we could talk about in a future presentation. But I don't believe the district will have to raise taxes at all. So I think we skip it and go to February 5th deadline, which is the district will submit a resolution to PDE that will resolve itself not to go above the Act 1 index, which means the district will not raise taxes above 5.5%. So that means it'll be 0% increase to 5.5% increase. So that means in January, we'll probably pass the resolution not to go above 5.5% because I don't believe we have a meeting until after February 5th. So I think we have to pass that in January. So be prepared for that resolution in January. The February 23rd, the district will publish an advertisement. This doesn't really revolve us if we don't approve the preliminary budget. But the district would have to publish an advertisement in the local newspapers of its intent to request approval from PDE to request a referendum exemption if you oppose to go above the preliminary index and went above the Act 1 index. So districts that do this, they'd have to go do a preliminary budget and then ask the state to, if they qualified for the special ed exemption or the retirement exemption or any other exemptions, and if they qualified, they examine their AFR and then let them know if they qualified. The district has to advertise in the newspaper before they do that, and that's the deadline they have to do that by. And then exactly 30 days later, the PD rules on the district's application. They either accept it or they decline it. If they decline it, then you can't raise your taxes above the Act 1 index anyways. If they accept it, they tell you exactly how much you can raise your taxes by. No later than May 31st, 2023, the board must adopt a proposed final budget for 23-24, and it must be advertised and made available for public inspection 20 days before the board can adopt the final budget. So the board will have to adopt a proposed final budget, make it available for public inspection, and then before that, then the board can adopt the final budget. So our game plan will be in the May board voting meeting, which is the second Tuesday of May, I believe. I guess we'll find that. You'll vote on the proposed final budget. If it passes, we'll then make it available 20 days for inspection. And then in June, it'll be past the 20 days. The second Tuesday of June, we'll ask the board to vote on it. If there's no controversial things in it and the board votes to adopt it, then there'll be no need to have you guys worry about coming back on June 30th. I've been around other districts where the boards had to meet on Saturday, June 30th, on Saturday morning to vote on budgets because they've been working on it for other things. They've had districts that have had to do it on other things, but we don't have to worry about, hopefully we don't have to worry about that here because I'm going to make you guys well educated and well prepared, and I'll work extra hard to make sure you guys don't have to, we have this wrapped up early in June for you guys as well, like it was last year.
Since you guys are not going to propose an increase, I would say we just try to vote on it in December.
With the whole budget?
No, the Act 1.
Oh, the Act 1, okay.
Just so we don't have to do it in January and for some reason we get snowed out and
Yeah,
we don't
we
want
could
to
do
push.
that.
I would just vote it in December if we're not going to go above 5.5.
No, in December.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, there's not,
Just-
I mean, oh, the whole budget, I was like, the whole budget would be.
Actually, I'd like to vote on the whole budget on Tuesday. Can we do that?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, that'd be a little bit hard. I don't even have the audit completed yet, so I don't know. As you said, we'll just vote on it on December. I was like, that might be a little bit challenging, but okay. So the next slide will show you what our timeline will be internally for presenting the budget to you guys. Every caucus meeting from here on out will have a presentation on the budget and to discuss budget and information on the budget. So the December caucus, I hope to present to you the preliminary audit results from 21-22, which will show you guys where the audit was, if there were any findings or anything of that nature. Present a 20,000 foot view, maybe even a higher foot view of the preliminary 23-24 budget. And also, like I mentioned in the financial reviews today, any trends in the 22-23 budget to actuals that may give you guys an idea as to where we're trending in accordance to where we budgeted to and where the fund balance will land for 22-23. So that way we have some kind of footing as kind of laying the foundation work for the 23-24 budget. That way we're starting, like we're kind of building a house here, and to build the house you have to build the foundation. So we've got to start where we ended on 21-22, then we'll look at 22-23 budget to actuals where we're trending, and then we'll begin to build a 23-24 foundation based on that work and begin to do that. We are sending out the budget workbooks to our principals and our department heads this week to start working on those requests, and it's going to take some time for them to gather that information. It's also going to take some time for them to ensure that we have some good data to go on and move forward with that projection and with that work on that. In January, we look to present a smaller view to get closer to that, and maybe a 10,000 foot view of the 23-24 budget, including putting together the budget book that you guys are accustomed to, so that you guys will have those things to start reviewing and start looking through to formulate your questions. I was very impressed with the questions that you guys all formulated last year, so I hope to continue that trend. I would expect a possible presentation of the final audit. I received that information from Trout last week, our CPA up there do the audit. They expect to come and present the similar audit results similar to what they did last year, although they did it much later last year. This year was much easier and much cleaner due to the significantly hard work that Dr. Fox and the business office staff undertook. Karen Pynchon, Tricia Wiesen, and Tammy Feltenberger did a phenomenal job in the office this year, and I would like to thank them on that. publicly for all the hard work they did on that. Obviously, I have in there the board will vote on the resolution not to raise taxes above the Act 1 index. We can do that in December as well. So we'll do that in December. At the February caucus is when we'll start working and start narrowing down the budget. We'll look at the large-scale items similar to what you guys did last year, and any new items that were not in the 22-23 budget and their justifications. We'll begin discussing with the collective group of the board and deciding if we're going to move ahead with them and look at the long-term planning. We'll also look at if we don't need them, trimming them back and taking them and removing them from the budget, and moving forward with the discussion of the department heads and principals as to what their justifications are and to what we need with them and how they impact our students and our physical plant moving forward. In March and April, we'll present the final ground views of the 23-24 budget, pairing through the budget lines and ensuring that the administration goals and the board goals are aligned, so that we are ensuring the educational and civic priorities of the district are fulfilled, with moving forward with this year's and years to come, as each budget year, as I think we've showed you, builds on one another. So I think we need to ensure that the budget is a good civic partnership with our community, of all stakeholders in our community, and looking at some projections for the years to come. Crabtree Roebuck are also projected to produce the feasibility study in this month as well, in April of 2023. So I think that'll be a good dovetail into our budget as we're finalizing our budget discussions, especially in the planning parts of that budget when it comes to our capital reserve and our capital projects. And then in May and June, we look for the board to adopt the preliminary final budget, and then in June ask to adopt the final budget. What you can see there, because of the warning that I'm about to run out of time in 2 minutes, it says that if there's any meetings that are needed to discuss the budget beyond this schedule, we can schedule special meetings like we did last year to discuss just special budget meetings that we could just discuss the budget as the board and the community as a whole, and bring in our senior administrators and things of that nature. A lot of our team will work exceptionally hard to keep the budget costs contained, from salaries to all the way down to supplies and things of that nature. We're already examining different things. We'll talk about electricity, we'll talk about energy, we'll talk about investment strategies and things of that nature to keep our district moving in the right direction. But like I said at the beginning, I don't foresee us needing to raise taxes this year. So I think we have one more good year of planning to do what we need to do moving forward. But as Phil asked last year during our budget thing, how many years do we have until the district goes broke? I think we're about 2 to 3 years, about 3.5 years away until the fund balance runs out. But then, so we have some decisions to make moving forward. But I think this year, I think we could stave off tax increases for one more year. But after that, I think we need to start having community-based discussions as to where we're going as a school district moving forward. So the screen went off, so I don't know what the next slide said, Christine, because my computer, what does it say? Are there any questions from the board members? And any from the community? No? Okay. I didn't know, there was no community members there before. So, all right, thank you. And if you guys have any questions in the interim, make sure you could always reach out to me and we'll talk about it more, and I'll have a little bit more. I also want to thank Christine and Krista from the COPS grant. I reached out to my congressman who actually sits on the subcommittee on appropriations of the U.S. House, Congressman Matt Cartwright. He's running for re-election, but he's on the Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Subcommittee on the House of Appropriations. He's the chairman of the committee, and he helped us with lobbying for the grant that we got from the Department of Justice. So I'd like to thank him publicly for that as well, helping us get that grant. So thank you, everybody, for that, and I turn it back to Dr. Fox.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that good information and overview. At this time, we're going to turn our attention now into some calendar discussions to kind of begin the wrapping up our November caucus. So when we started with calendar discussions back in October, I was asked to go back with a different variation of the calendar, and we certainly did that. So I have two versions of the calendar in front of you in your packets to take a look at. There's draft 1 and draft 2. And what I did is a presentation that will have a side-by-side comparison of the two. And what I'm looking for this evening is to see if you would like draft 1 or if you like draft 2 to get a consensus, or you want to see a draft 3 or a different variation of the calendar itself. And then at that point, to see if this is something you're ready for November, or you want more information to wait until December to get approval. So let's go ahead and take a historic walk through. First is just a comparison between Draft 1 and Draft 2. Draft 1, the first day of school, would be August 22nd to 2023, and that would quintessentially be a 4-day start for students. Draft 2 looks at starting it on a Thursday for August 24th, 2023. That would be 2 days the first week, and then what that would do is go 2 days, then 4 days, and 4 days to tier into it. Draft 1 has 4 days for the next 3 weeks, and Draft 2 would have 2 days for 2 days and then 4 days in terms of breakdown. And it looks like, in talking with Cumberland Perry Career and Tech Center, that they are proposing an August 28th potential start date. They haven't finalized their calendar, but typically that would be their start date historically. And if we went with Draft 2, that would only be a 2-day difference for our students at the high school that attend the Cumberland Perry Career and Tech Center in the afternoons. Looking at Labor Day and Labor Day holidays, Draft 1 would have Labor Day holiday being September 4th off. Draft 2 would have the Labor Day holidays of being September 2nd and September 4th off. Looking at just some formative assessment feedback from people, it certainly seemed to be positive feedback from staff and students and parents on having that longer Labor Day weekend. Again, we are required to go 180 student days, 900 hours of instruction, and 990 hours for secondary instruction. New Year's Day, Draft 1 would have a New Year's Day of January the 1st, 2024, with the student and staff return on January 2nd, 2024. Draft 2 would look at returning January 3rd, 2024, having that Tuesday off after New Year's Day. That was positive in terms of some formative assessment that I tried to garner as well. Graduation, Draft 1 would look at graduation on May 23rd, 2024, and Draft 2 would look at graduation on May 31st, 2024, which is a Friday. Draft 1 has it on a Thursday. End of school. End of school in Draft 1 is May 24th, 2024. Traditionally, we do a half day. Draft 2 would look at end of school on May 31st, 2024, and that's the same day as graduation, so it would be everybody would be wrapped up that particular Friday, and that would be a half day for students as well. So I tried to do a side-by-side comparison rather than trying to go back and forth and look. There's pros and cons, obviously, to any time and anything. So at this point, I'm kind of looking for your direction, feedback, questions, and to see if you like any of these versions or you want a version 3 or any other prototypes that we can bring to your attention.
I like 2 for the most part.
I think feedback on travel. I think people coming back, and New Year's being a holiday that some people celebrate.
You need that day for recovery.
So looking at draft,
Should go to that January 1st bowl game and have time to get home.
so thoughts on anything at this point, or wanting to see anything?
I still like Draft 1, so that's where I'm at.
Yes, that was the problem, not this year as much, but the year before, and I guess we hit the pandemic as well, but that's a lot for like a full week of school for young kids. They're like falling asleep at their desks.
Can you add a half day in the first one? On Friday? And still meet the needs of the state?
When you say a half day on Friday, you talking the first week?
Yeah.
Just start a day later and come back a day earlier from January.
Possibly. I can, so what I'm hearing is draft 3, to go back and make some variations is what I'm hearing.
And then on Tuesday, we're gonna ask for draft 4.
Which
If you
actually
haven't
be
been
dra-
around, this is like worse than the budget process
should actually be
sometimes.
draft 5, because we've already had one draft. So these are actually 2 and 3. The next one will be 4. But that's hard for people that work. It's just hard for people that work to like. But like multiple in the same week is crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe just add a half day on Friday. That's really the only thing. That's the only thing I would change on week 1, is just to give them that break.
Just get rid of the.
So what I'm
no school makeup
hearing
days.
is, in draft 1, looking at August 25th, changing that to a half a day. And what that would give is a 4.5 day first start.
But on draft 1, what you lose is what I garnered from your positive feedback that you got from students and staff, that it's in draft 2. Like having the long weekend over Labor Day, which was gained in draft 2 of having both Friday and Monday off. That's not in draft 1. In draft 1, you only have a half day on Friday instead of
It is actually a 2-hour.
a 2-hour early dismissal. I'm sorry, the color missed. And then you also don't have, in draft 1, you don't have that Tuesday and New Year's, which you have in draft 2, which is also. Phil, what don't you like about draft 2?
The feedback that I get is that people would rather be done after Memorial Day and not come back. I still think those 4 days after Memorial Day is going to be a waste of time.
Well, and I don't disagree with that.
Because a lot of people go on vacation and aren't going to come back anyway.
Have it off on Monday, and I just think that that's going to be.
I mean, I hate to sit here and say this because I don't want to extend the school year, but if you're going to have them come back for those 4 days, I feel you should have them come back for 2 weeks and make it worthwhile and go into June like we used to do prior.
What, Dr. Fox, you said that you talked to people and stuff. What did they think about that final week with having that day and emphasize all the while? Classroom with kids.
So again, that wasn't an area that was brought up, and I didn't ask that question. I certainly can, between now and the next prototype.
My only concern is, another prototype, we really just need that half day. I don't think so, unless something else in it. The only thing that I worry about is, to me, it's almost, this week is almost like a snow week. Have like a massive snow or something like we have here. Kids' brains, they are done with school. My problem with this, and maybe I'm now given them 2 or 3 years where they have been done the formal part of it. We're back on days, are they gonna treat that as they're not supposed to? But if teachers don't think so.
Again, I only did a random sampling. I can't speak for an entire teaching population without asking everyone and every person. But ultimately, I was kind of charged with providing draft documents, and that's what I'm doing. So I'll take your direction either way. Please note that we can get as creative as we want to, but I would 100% agree. It has to look and work K to 12. Charnette?
I have faulty memory, go with that, I'm old. But I thought they wanted to make it later in May because of everything, all the playoffs and everything that happens at the end of May and the prom, and we're having on the same day?
So the only thing that I can tell you about that is all you do is move the 3 weeks of chaos if you have a senior around. It doesn't matter if it's over Memorial Day or if it's earlier in May. It's still 3 weeks of chaos if you have a senior. So it just moves the time frame around and adds Memorial Day into it. But Memorial Day was always in that 3 weeks of chaos anyway. Now we're really taking Memorial Day out of it.
Thought that they were having,
Three days instead of 4? Could you do 3 days the first week and then still away the 3rd or the 2nd, I guess, of January, and then you could still finish when you were talking about finishing? I feel like before Memorial Day, people have gotten used to.
I don't like commencement the day before the state track meet. That's just me. Can't practice. The day after, the Monday after Thanksgiving, take that away.
A 2-hour early dismissal, that's not a day. My fault.
Oh my God.
They're not gonna like the 22nd of November either.
Whether they like it or not, if we have school, we have school. It doesn't matter. I'll go with whatever you say, Dr. Fox.
Draft
So,
one, add a half day.
I hear you.
So what happened was when they made snow days where you could do them virtually, we signed up for it in the test the first year and we had like 2 days. And we used those 2 days and we didn't have any other snow days that year. So the week, the unknown for parents was Easter week where we had like 7 days or 8 days scheduled off school. But normally you would only have 3 days off, but you wouldn't know what they were until you had no snow prior to going into Easter. So when that went away and we could go to 5 days of virtual learning for snow days, we decided that we didn't need 7 snow days in the calendar anymore. So we took out that week, and then we were able to be done before Memorial Day. That was how the whole change happened, and it was a recommendation of parents at the time.
So the consensus I'm hearing from the group that's here right now is to take draft one, create that Friday a half day, and to way to make the calendar work as it would be, would mean that day would probably become, and we can never get enough, especially the first week, an incredible professional learning afternoon that we could to help with some adjustments and some a lot of other things that come up during the course of the week that would allow us that chance. So it's certainly something that I will adjust and bring that back. What I will do is not have that item on the calendar for voting here at November. I will bring it back to you in December at caucus to make sure everybody is comfortable with that. And then we can look at a December vote. Sound good?
You can have a first week huddle.
It is good to huddle up, absolutely. All right, I think that concludes caucus, but I want to open it up for public comment.
So is it okay if I comment about something that has nothing to So, I don't know if you can probably hear me without the microphone, but so everybody, most of you know who I am. I'm Callis Wexler. I'm teaching here pretty much all the time. I coach soccer. I have a senior, I have a freshman, and I have a sixth grader. My senior and my freshman play on the soccer team, and we, for the second time ever in school history, made it to districts. We, for the first time in school history, won our first district game. So tonight we played at Trinity, who is seated number 1. We lost 3-0, but they played very well.
We were
So-
trying to watch it during our policy meeting at the same time, so.
So we, as the number 5 seed, have the opportunity to have a home game here on Saturday to play for 3rd and 4th place in the district. But I'm being told that we cannot have that game here, and we will have to have it somewhere else because the track is being repaired or something like that. And so I would like to stress, and I don't know what the deal is. I know that they are coming from Ohio, and it's a whatever. But we have a great senior class, a great team, the seniors have been the winningest that we've ever had. In 25 years, we've won 112 games. We were not at 100 before this season. They were at 15 wins last year. They were at something like 9 wins the year before and 12 wins the year before. So this group of seniors has probably won almost half of the wins that we have for 25 years. We have 2 seniors that have every single school record that you could possibly have, every single Perry County record that you could possibly have, and we have an opportunity to give them a home game as possibly their last game ever as a Susquenita soccer player. And being the mom of one of them, it would mean so much to me. And having coached for the high school team for I don't know how many years, 6 or 7, and having coached the middle school team for forever, and having coached my daughter and most of the team there since they were probably 7. I don't know if we can do anything about it, but if there is absolutely any way that we could have a game that we earned as their last home game here, I would like to do it. I don't have any idea.
So they started the work. What happens is we get multiple different, we put in our change order to get change order number 1, which is that lip that was there on the track when they came around and they did the cutting. This makes a clean line, and they're supposed to come in with track material to keep that slope that happens in the inside portion, to make it so it's rounded at this particular point. It is a tremendous amount of handwork is the reason it takes time, because they go around literally with a knife, and they're cutting with a straight line and a straight edge that part of the track. They're about 200 meters in today that they started this work. Some of the issue, again, and I'm not discounting by any means, we get chunks of time at which they say, hey, if we can do it in this point, we can get it in for spring. Otherwise, because spring is busy, we can't get you in for another year. We get windows of when we're able to do it. Here's what I will do. I can't offer anything. I won't sit here, and I think you know me long enough to say I can't promise anything. I will tomorrow morning go down bright and early and talk to Ed, the foreman. I met him today. I will call tonight the person who made the contacts with me and ask him if there's any way we can work up until that point and not put the material on Friday that we're supposed to, which is that epoxy that if it touches anything, it damages it, and see if they can delay and allow us to get that game on. I will absolutely try. Absolutely try. I feel terrible that the timing is potentially could take away something from our kids, because I do not want that to happen. We do not want that to happen. All I can do is ask, advocate, and try. And offer what concessions I can offer, I will offer them. But I will not guarantee.
Okay.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Because I think they have to be planning where they're going to be. And I mean, I don't know what, it could be that if we say we can't have it here, that then it's going to be at the team that we're playing at, which puts us at a very big disadvantage because home field advantage is a very significant thing, especially when you're talking about, it could be, if we win on Saturday, we then play in states, which obviously we've never done before either, and that would start on Tuesday.
Absolutely. You earn the right to play at home, without a doubt. And I apologize that you even have to stand here and ask for that.
Well, and I was just, I'm honestly, I have no words as to the fact that this is a possibility for our girls that have worked their butts off for not just 4 years, not just 6 years while they've been Susquenita Blackhawks, but for like my daughter who's 17, for 13 years she's been playing soccer. And I mean, it just makes me very sad for them that this is a possibility, and maybe 50-50 chance that they can actually be at home for the last game, possibly the last game ever. I mean, and it probably means more to me because it's my daughter, it will be her last game ever for Susquenita. And I have a freshman, like I said, who's been playing with her, and it's the only time they've ever played together because they're 3 grades apart, so they've never been on the same team before. And it's just amazing to watch how well they play. I mean, if you saw the Boiling Springs game, which I know Dr. Fox was there, I mean, they put every ounce of heart that they possibly could into that. Boiling Springs has been to either the finals of the districts or to the semifinals of districts for probably 10 of the past 15 years. And we brought it to them. We're down by 1 with 1 minute and 25 seconds left, and they scored in 8 seconds. And I don't want to say, I mean, it was Maddie and Samantha, my daughter Samantha, Maddie Fleischer, who are the 2 that have every single record that we have at Susquenita. 8 seconds, the 2 of them down the field scored to go into overtime, played 30 more minutes of overtime to get into penalty shots, and then we had both of them scored their penalty shots. Our keeper had an excellent save. My freshman daughter scored a goal too, and they missed, and we won. I mean, it was an amazing game. I've had 5 or 6 people tell me it's the most exciting soccer game they've ever seen in their lives. Parents of people who have been playing forever still said that. So, I mean, if I appreciate you trying.
Absolutely. We'll try to advocate and see what we can do. And we want to make sure also that it's safe, which is the most important thing. Because of the work they're doing, we want to make sure that it doesn't compromise and put anybody at a safety risk, first and foremost. Without a doubt. Absolutely.
And Samantha was here with me, but she was here for a 7 o'clock meeting, had school all day, played a soccer game, has to go home and do some work. So,
Coach, I think it was the calendar that put her over the edge there.
Well,
Tell her I feel that too.
You are talking about starting on her birthday next year, but she's not going to be here, so it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations to the whole team. You're exactly right, Mrs. Wilt. Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you. Back next Tuesday.